Even with stacks of paper in my craft room, sometimes I don't have exactly the right match for my photos. So today I'm using cardstock, stencils, inks, and stamps to see if I can make myself the perfect pattern paper. Starting off with a fresh white base of cardstock, I'm bringing in this fun water pattern stencil. This is a new one from Stampin' Up, and I love that it goes all the way to the edges of your 12 by 12 paper. These are the photos that I'm trying to match, so I kept that in mind while I was picking colors of ink to use today. We have some very bright colors in there, so I thought the best thing to do is to swatch them out so that I could see exactly how they're looking next to my photos once they've dried. I had a bit of trouble with the pink color. There's actually pink and red in here, but I found a match for my stash. This is Wild Berry. But I will get into all the inks that I have picked as we go. I grabbed 3 shades of blue. I don't know if I'm going to use them all, but I'm going to start with Balmy Blue, which will be my light shade. I like to start light, and then we can see where it goes from there. I have added a little bit of adhesive to my white cardstock off camera, and then I also use some washi tape just to attach my stencil down to my mat, and that way I don't have to worry about it sliding around on me while I'm inking. This is not going to be looking like a lot yet. I do have a sketch in mind of where I want my photos to be, so I'm placing it heaviest under where my photos are going to hide it so that I can blend out from there and get a fairly light application. Just going in circular motions. I don't want to get too heavy-handed too fast, especially if I'm going to bring in some darker blues. We'll have a peek and see what that's looking like. It's very light so far, so I'm going to keep layering this up and I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to switch up my colors and bring in some of the Azure Afternoon, and I'm just going to add this in a few places to brighten it up a little bit. This is a little bit more of an intense blue, and I don't want to put this everywhere. I just want to have some spots here and there. You could even lay your photos out on your page so you could see exactly where you're going and where this is going to show up. It's a little bit of a mystery because then when you pull that stencil away, that's really the only time you can see exactly what you've got going on. Okay, let's see what's under this stencil. Wow, that is super fun. I love this texture. Let's see how our photos look on top of it here. That is really fun, and I love the variation between the light and darker areas. I don't think I'm going to bring in the darkest blue on the background. Maybe we'll save that for something else. I think this is looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now because I want both my base pages to match. This is what my 2 backgrounds look like. I love how they turned out. Some of this is going to get covered once we get our other papers and photos on there. You're definitely not going to see it all, but I do love the variation and how it's just kind of all watery and all over the place. I think that looks great. Next, we need to create some layers. I am using a sketch from page 12 of the new Volume 6 CDT Sketchbook, and we have some strips back here. So I'm thinking maybe the littler strips would go for a solid color, and then maybe this one and that one we make a pattern. So I do have this set, Splash and Relax. This is a new one, and I like that little beach ball. There's 2 layers to it, so you can stamp like contrasting colors or coordinating colors on there, or you can just stamp them a solid color. That is what I did for my little swatch thing here. So this is just the base layer, but I could stamp off for the base and then stamp the full color for the layer. Maybe try that out and see how it looks. And now I just have to decide if I want to use like all the colors and do rainbow. I do love a good rainbow, so maybe I'll try that out for the big pieces and see how it looks. I've gone ahead and put the ball and the little layer onto blocks, and then we are just going to go ahead and stamp one of the smaller strips. I want to try that out first to see how I like it. This is going to be a pretty busy pattern, so I don't know that I want it to kind of cover everything, have like a big chunk of a very busy pattern. I'm going to stamp off. Oh, that did not evenly stamp off. Just a second. There we go. Ah, well, that didn't go to plan. Let's start over with a new piece. All right, let's see if we can manage this now. Stamp off. And then I'm going to stamp here. My strategy is going to be just to offset them in different colors. So I am going to need to wash it every time. I just keep my chamois moist and in like a little jar next to me. And I'm going to do all the lighter toned ones first, and then I'll go back with the layer. I don't think it really matters what order I go in. I might like the lighter tone and actually just want to stick with that. We'll see. I'm going to skip over to the yellow, thinking maybe I should stamp the yellow. This is Daffodil Delight, just in full strength. Since it's such a light color, if I stamp off, it won't be dark enough. Now my goal here is to make sure I'm not putting two of the same color next to each other, and also trying to fill in all those little gaps, only leaving a little bit of white space between the circles. I'm also trying to tilt them on different angles so I don't have the exact same image over and over. It looks slightly different when I rotate it. So I decided to go with the full strength stamping. Here is what it looks like with stamping off, and then here's what it looks like just full strength, straight to paper. And you know what? I prefer the bolder colors. I think it's going to look really good with my photos. And since we did a small strip, I think that will make the difference. Now, I did have a little bit of a whoopsie as far as spacing goes. I was stamping along and then I messed up one and I flipped it around to the other end and then just kept on stamping. So I ended up with a little bit of an awkward space here at the end. Always go in order, and I know that too, but you know, sometimes you don't follow your own advice. And so I like to stamp in order to make sure I'm filling up the space as I go. So if this hadn't been there, I could have gotten like a nice, like full stamping right in there. But since that didn't work out, my plan is I'm gonna put it on this page here, and then I should be able to cover it with a little bit of embellishment and just kind of fill in that white gap. I don't need to cover the whole thing. I just need to be able to fill in that gap, maybe put some embellishments around that area, and I think that should work out just fine. All right, so now I'm gonna go on to my larger pieces of paper, and I have an idea for this. I don't really wanna use a stencil or a stamp because that's gonna give me higher contrast. You can see here, these are very high contrast. It's a very bold pattern. And that's what stopped me from doing these ones is I figured it would just be a lot and it would kind of take away too much from the page. Since we're making our own paper, we can control these things. So I'm going to bring in my inks here. I want to figure out the order that I want them in. Probably the purpley color should be by the blue. The yellow, let's do a little test and see if the yellow is going to mix in with the purple or if we're going to get brown. Because it depends how much pink is in it and how much purple is in it. Purple does not mix with yellow, and you can get very brown results. Not sure I like that. Let's see, what about the green? That's going to be worse. And the blue, let's see. We know we can mix blue and green. We know we can mix blue and pink. Blue and purple is no problem. Blue and yellow is no problem because that'll give us a kind of green. So it really is this pinky purple, the wild berry color, that's going to kind of throw things off. I think out of all the mixes, if I put yellow and blue beside it, it's not too bad when it mixes with yellow. It goes a little more orangey. It's always a good idea to test your colors out on a piece of scrap paper before you get going doing something like this, because then you don't have to start over when you accidentally mix colors you didn't mean to. Now, as I'm adding colors, I'm keeping in mind what I want to keep close to each other, what's going to blend well together, and then I am going back and adding color. You can see that green. I put the green down first, and then I added the yellow and blue, and then I went back to each color and re-blended by going back and adding more, it helps those blend together and become more enmeshed. Otherwise, you can end up kind of with like splotchy circles that don't really blend as well. And if you're struggling with that, just go back and add another layer of ink. If you're getting some splotchy kind of circles where you put your blending brush down, I kind of got a little bit of that in that wild berry area. You can really help that out by starting blending off of your actual piece on your scrap paper or glass mat, whatever you have behind the paper that you're working on. Start ink blending there and then pull the ink onto your paper, and that should help avoid getting like the really dark spots on your paper. Now, as I finish blending out this piece, I'll tell you a little bit about the photos that I'm scrapbooking on this layout. We went down to the lake for Canada Day. It's not often that we get to go to the lake all together, so it was kind of a special day. And I had intended on checking out all the festivities and things that were going on for Canada Day, and it just didn't work out. As soon as my daughter got to the lake, she jumped in the water, and that was it. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to go see anything else. We actually went and got food. Cody went and got us some food and brought it to the beach so we could have a picnic because she was not getting out of that water. Even though there was like a cool breeze coming off the water and I had goosebumps most of the time, she still didn't want to leave. Here's a look at that finished paper. Now I'm going to go on and do the other one off camera. My ink blending is done. And so now it's time to start looking at assembly, kind of bringing these pieces together. I really love how this paper turned out. And I decided I'm not going to add anything else to it. No splatters, no nothing. You could drip water on it and get some nice little like water dots. But I think this is good enough. I'm happy with where we landed here. And I have a couple of options as far as cardstock here for the little strips that go around these pieces. So I have cut Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, and then the Wild Berry. And all of these I'm using on the lighter side because I felt like they are a better match to the colors that I used in the ink and the way it turned out when I stamped it and ink blended it. So this is kind of what I was thinking in here. I wasn't sure between the Granny Apple Green and the Wild Berry. So we'll look at both and see how that looks. Put the Wild Berry in. Now remember, my pictures have quite a bit of the pink in them as well. The green is definitely more subtle and the pink kind of adds that pop. You know what, for once, I think I'm gonna go with the green. Typically, I would go for the pop, the higher contrast, but I know I still have more layers to add to these pages. We need embellishments still, and I think that is going to add plenty more color and pop to these pages. Now, you may have noticed I already started matting my photos here. I decided to go for Blueberry Bushel, and that's just because I wanted some nice contrast. I think I want my 3x4s to have a nice white border the way my other photos do, so I'm gonna have to trim them down and then mount these on white to get that same white and blue. I love the high contrast between these two. It's really gonna pull your eye into the photo. And because we have, you know, some brighter colors going on here, it really helps to have the higher contrast photo mat. In this Splash and Relax, we have stamps, we have dies. This looks like a donut, but it is actually for the inner tube. And I was thinking of using these as my bigger elements for a cluster. And then also adding in like the sunglasses, the flip-flops. We got a little visor in here, a little cup, a lotion bottle. But I was thinking I could cluster these almost like flowers. You know, I like my floral clusters. And just have like my other little pieces added on. So maybe do like 2 or 3 rings in a cluster. I'm still following the sketch as far as placement for things. I am just putting in my own embellishments that are a little bit different. I also want to be careful not to cover up too much of that pretty watery background because that is also a highlight of this page. I'm going to do a little bit of die cutting so that we can play around with the embellishments and see how that looks. Next to rainbow colored paper, text paper is also one of my favorites. And so I'm going to take the green strips and I'm going to use the coordinating ink and this little Fun in the Sun saying that is from the stamp set, the Splish and Splash stamp set. And I'm just gonna come along and create sort of like a random pattern. I'm gonna try and just fill in any gaps as I go and try and maintain the same angle. We'll see how this turns out. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's actually mostly the ends that is gonna show. So I think I'll just come down here to the other end and do the same thing. I should maybe throw some right in the middle on this one since it is showing between there. Yeah, I think that works great. All right, I'll do the other one. I have some white cardstock now. I have those strips put back on the page. I think it's a great little accent to my layout. And now I'm going to just try out some different combinations for this inner tube. If I can get the dog hair off my stamp. Now I was debating whether I want to do this tone on tone like I was doing for the other ones for the beach balls, or if I want to try mixing some colors. So whatever colors I layer over need to blend well because the inks are transparent, and so you are going to see some of that color come through and kind of mix. Yeah, the yellow and green mix really nicely. There's also these little detail lines, so I could add a third color and add those little lines on the yellow quadrants. I think they only fit on the yellow quadrants. These tubes also have little handles. There's dies for them and stamps, so you can actually put on the handles as sort of a 3D part of the tube. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm going to give this a shot and see how those lines look. I'm happy with how just this looks, so I don't want to wreck it. Oh, I like that little extra detail. It looks good. Now I'm going to go in with full strength Wildberry, and the layer for this I'm going to stamp in Blueberry Bushel. These layer together really nicely actually. And then I'm going to do Granny Apple Green with Blueberry Bushel layered over top. And then I did Wildberry, stamping it off, and then I'm going to do full strength Wildberry. And I have actually done a few of those in the different colors where I have the two-tone look. The lighter version of the same ink with the darker layer on top. I did some more off camera and then I die cut them. As you can see, I also did 3 little beach balls there, a combination of the two-tone look, and then I did one yellow and green ball. Now I'm just kind of spreading these out around my page. I didn't duplicate any of the color combinations because I wanted them all to be a little bit different. I didn't want it to be repetitive, but I'm still working in that color palette, so everything still flows together really well. I'm overlapping and clustering these very similar to how I would do florals. One of the main differences, I guess, is that I am tucking them under my photo mats because I don't want them to be the focus. I die cut some flip-flops and some sunglasses to add to my clusters. And for the little sunglasses, I actually die cut the lenses from some silver foil paper, and I love how they look with that nice little reflection on there. These I am just going to go ahead and put one of or two of those items in each of the clusters, and I'm just kind of throwing them there for now, and then I can kind of work out later exact placement. I do love little wordy bits on my pages, so I went ahead and stamped some of the sentiments from this stamp set. I'm really happy that I was able to use the same set for all of my embellishments, even for some of creating my background paper. And I love how the words in the set can work for scrapbooking and card making. Now, I felt like my clusters were missing a little something. This is usually where the leaves and the sprigs would come into play if these were florals. And so I was like, you know what? I think I can come up with something that will serve a similar purpose. This is an old Flourish die from an old Close to My Heart set. And I cut them out of some white shimmer paper. It's just lightly shimmery, it's not glittery, but I think those finished off my clusters perfectly. I also used the party alphabet dies to die cut the word fun out of that same white shimmer paper. And then I die cut it again out of Wildberry cardstock and glued that to back, just offset a little bit. So I had a drop shadow. And then this is an old Close My Heart die as well that says together. I die cut 4 of those, glued them together so I got this nice chunky word that I can layer over the word fun. I really like layering together bold fonts with a scripty font, whether I'm doing it on my Cricut or with my dies. I really like how this title turned out. At this point, I'm feeling like my pages just need a little bit more bling. I went ahead and stuck everything down off camera. I added my journaling in strips that I printed out on my computer and then cut up. And now I'm adding these holographic resin dots. Unfortunately, they are retired, but you could use any kind of sparkly dot here just to add a little bit of bling. And I'm scattering them around my clusters. Here is a close-up look at what these pages look like. You can see the water pattern in the background a little bit better when it's closer to the camera, but I'm so happy with how everything layered up, and I think it's just the right amount. I'm glad that for that thick band of pattern paper, I just went with the ink blending and kept the busier pattern in a smaller strip. I think that balanced out really well. And picking my ink colors from my photos helped so that everything is cohesive and matches really well, actually. I think creating my own pattern papers worked out perfectly for these really bright photos. Of course, lots of times you can find stuff in your stash that will work, but sometimes it's just fun to go ahead and make your own patterns yourself, as well as your embellishments. Now, if you are ready for some more scrapbooking inspiration, go check out this video here, and I'll see you again soon with another video.